Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine, and I have decided to vlog daily since the start of this awful war with Russia. In my daily videos, I try to update you on real life situation in my country, and also I believe that through my videos you will be able to witness Ukrainian victory over Russian orcs and hopefully someday soon. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe, first of all, to witness that victory, and secondly, because the world needs to know more about Ukraine, and I'm convinced in that. My today's video is going to be in a very much vlog style because I have collected a couple of things that I want to share with you. Well, first of all, I'm extremely grateful for the community that shaped around the channel, and I feel that all of you are my friends and some are close like relatives, which means that we always worry about each other and we want to guarantee safety, support in these challenging times. And many of you worry about me, but sometimes your worries are not constructive, and I want to explain you why. Well, first of all, especially at the beginning of my channel, many of you advised me not to reveal my real name, not to reveal my location, the city I live in, or the region I live in. Thank you so much that you consider me a national treasure, but I'm not. I'm not a sniper or super spy or a specialist of something, so I am not of great priority for Russia, at least now. Secondly, if I totally hide my identity, you won't be able to develop trust with me. Of course, I'm not going to share with you some moments from my personal life or, for example, my address. But at the very beginning, I've received lots of comments, not only from Russian trolls, that perhaps you're sitting somewhere safely in Canada, or that you're not from Ukraine at all and you're manipulating on this topic. That's why I had to show you some of the locations first in my city, and then now I feel obligation to show you more of Ukraine and especially the devastations that war brought to my beautiful country. Also, I remember one video from Puzata Hata that all of you like so much, and we have Puzata Hata in Lutsk. And there were lots of notices on the walls, like advertisement of food and things you can buy there, and it was in English. And it's like, English is a popular language, it can be found everywhere. And lots of people reacted, well, you're not in Ukraine, why do you have English names on the walls? And come on, guys, like Puzata Hate actually is more popular among foreigners, not among Ukrainians. And that's why English is on the walls. Plus, there are lots of cafes, clubs, beauty salons in Ukraine that have English names. This is a global tendency. But then I live in a semi-safe zone, which borders with European Union and at the same time with Belarus, which makes it a little bit less safe. But I think it's okay if I tell you the city I come from or what is my profession or something like that. Also, many of you advised me not to film students so that Russian orcs won't know that we have classes at the university. But come on, this is a totally public information. And you cannot organize the educational process if no one in Ukraine will know that students go to the universities all over Ukraine. This is something that happens all the time. And of course, Russians know that universities are working, hospitals are working, schools are working. It's obvious, it's easy to see that. And the schedule is open and available online because all the universities have that. And it is important for the organization of the educational process. So when I tell you that I have a class with students, it is not a secret. Also, if I take you to some places like the volunteering center, for example, or the Museum of Modern Art, I'm not revealing secret information. Typically, there are lots of news reportages about these locations already on the internet, on Ukrainian television, on European television, American television, depending on the importance of that place. And for example, many volunteering centers, they do not hide their addresses. You can find them online. You can see the way they work because it's important for the people who donate the money. Showing their work, showing their location, they are able to attract money, people, and continue supporting front. Of course, it is to some extent dangerous, but everything is dangerous in Ukraine. And as my beautiful friend and moderator Martin mentioned, sometimes benefits overweight the risks. Also, you have to understand that Ukraine is really big. Actually, we are advised not to stress on that, but we are the largest country in Europe. This may help, and this may like a little bit slow down the process of our EU integration, actually, which means that different rules and different cautious measures are applied to depending on the region you live in. Of course, those that are hot zones or are temporarily occupied by Russian troops, they are extremely dangerous. And all people who work there, who continue volunteering, who communicate with Ukrainian armed forces, for example, they do it undercover and they hide it and they erase messages, for example. They need to be super careful because if that is known by Russian soldiers, people can be kept, killed, tortured, and whatever. So this is a true tragedy. But for example, I am living in a semi-safe zone, which means that the majority of people here are for one. We are united, we support each other, we travel from one volunteering location to another volunteering location, and everybody knows that. Of course, there are always traders who can give the information, but it's not a common practice. In every city, in every region, there are some objects of specific military interest, and you can I'm not going to name that because here I am media literate, but you can imagine what this is. Of course, these are not cafes or theaters, and we are not supposed to reveal their location. But once again, another thing that many of you do not think about is that Russia was preparing for war, and they had for years satellite photos. They know how to use Google Maps and all of that. So, for example, the location of my, I don't know, you don't want me to speak about university, but like university was built back in Soviet times by Soviet teams. So they pretty well know where the university is located. And it's not me who are going to reveal the location when I name the street. This is common knowledge. Many of the plants and factories that are built in Ukraine were built back in Soviet times. So even if they don't have access to satellite images, Google Maps, or other stuff, they have access to old Soviet maps where everything is depicted. Plus, take into account that they were getting ready for this war. So when people exaggerate this awareness and advise not to name anything, we have to realize this is just like anxiety, nothing else. This does not protect you. But Ukrainians have become extremely media literate during this year, and there are other things that we're not supposed to reveal, and we will never do that. Once again, as locations of some new objects or movement of Ukrainian armed forces or some of their actions on the territories that you can observe. No one films, for example, the movement of weapons that travel from the west to the front lines. All of that we understand clearly. Also, you're not allowed to film a place of a missile hit. And even if it was in Lutsk, when it was in Lutsk, I did not film it because this may help Russian orcs correct. If they did not manage to destroy something, then it is a problem. And people will never film that. At the very beginning of war, it was a true tragedy because everyone wanted to share the photos of explosions and destructions on Facebook. Now you will find it only like months after an explosion, or when some cleanings are done, or when it's obvious that no other hits will happen, you will see it on news. But people do not generate this content by themselves, and actually you can go to SBU if you do things like that. What are the other things that we are not supposed to reveal? Well, maybe all of that are connected with military actions and with some Russian orcs observations and so on. But in general, the true secret information is not available for people like me. So there is no danger. I will share it. And of course, I also teach a media literacy course, so I do know the things and I filter them. But once again, the location of the theater or the castle in my city or the library is known, and it's not that my vlog or something will reveal that. Also, you often advise me, like many of you often advise me to leave my semi-safe zone, and sometimes I receive emails where people tell me like, oh, if all of you knew the war would begin, then all of Ukraine could have been evacuated. And Russian orcs will simply come and take all the country empty. Um, this is not a good advice because it is unrealistic. Well, first of all, people would never agree to leave their homes without witnessing the real reason. Some who were extremely worried and believed the news did, but in general, you cannot evacuate like dozens of millions of people. They will not want that. Secondly, there is no other countries, like they started getting inviting Ukrainian refugees, accepting Ukrainian refugees only after the start of the war, not before. And secondly, or thirdly, who will protect the country? I know that I'm not a soldier, so Russian trolls often advise me to go to the front lines. If something happens here in my region, I will definitely fight, but I'm not a soldier, and I feel like there are things that still can be useful. For example, I know the situation from inside and I share it with you, but also I buy food, I work, I teach students, I buy clothes. Anyway, I'm a part of Ukrainian economy and of Ukrainian normality. And it's extremely important that after we win, the country is able to return back to this normal life really quickly. And I believe that many of Ukrainians who stay are important. I do not judge those people who left, but I don't clearly understand those people who left, for example, my region. I think that to a great extent it is possible to observe a normal, more or less normal life here. Plus, for me, it's vital to be connected with my country and to be useful the way I can. Also, Ukraine is really big, and I know that I had advice when I was talking about the dangers of Zaporizhia nuclear power station, that if it blows up, it is going to be a tragedy. It is going to be a tragedy, and many people told me then you're dead and you have to escape before it happens. I am like 1,000 kilometers away from Zaporizhia nuclear power station, and I hope this will never happen. But if something happens, I have like hours to escape or to do whatever I want, plus like this direct cloud will not reach me. There are other power stations close to me, but not that close once again. So typically when you live in Ukraine, you get information, additional information that you don't have, guys, access to. We are warned about various objects, dangerous objects, how close they are located to us, and how much time we have to escape. In my case, it is close to an hour that I have time to hide. I don't want it to be needed, but then the situation with electricity is not even right now. In my region, we don't have outages at all. In Kyiv, too. In those regions that are closer to front lines and where orcs manage to destroy more of infrastructure, they have outages and they need more generators and more support. Air raid alerts, they are not even, and there is a map of air raid alerts. Some regions like Donetsk and Luhansk have constant air raid alert, and in our case it can differ. Oh, it's getting to be a long vlog, so I have to wind up. Another thing is that typically we also have applications who inform us about what type of air raid alert is that. Are these missiles flying, drones flying, or for example a fighter jet? And it's bad that people adapt to that, but like you don't have a choice when you live 1 year at war and you want to continue working, living, I don't know. So for example, when a fighter jet is flying, an alert is present, but it is rarely that something happens, and typically people ignore it. And my cousin told the funny story, like when his colleagues, foreign colleagues, heard the air raid alarm, and they've told him, you have to escape, you have to hide. And he said, don't worry, this is a fighter jet. And they're like, oh, okay. Once again, I'm not saying it's okay, and every inch of Ukrainian territory is under threat right now because of criminal Putin and people, millions of Russians who support him. But you have to adapt, and you have to accept some dangers for the sake of the benefits that it can give, for the continuation of fighting, volunteering, support of Ukrainian economy, education, and so on. You cannot stop life, because this will be actually the failure. This will be the sign. You cannot escape your country. All of us cannot do it, because they will simply enter and start living in our flats. So that's what I intended to explain you. If you have some other questions, maybe to visualize what life is right now in Ukraine, let me know and I will gladly answer them. Once again, I want to thank you that you worry about me and that you give advice. And I follow many of them. And perhaps I will record a video on that too. But in general, I will tell you that many of you ask, is it safe to come and travel to Ukraine? And I will tell you no. Why? Because this year of war trained us. And we know how to act in different situations. And it may be that you are not that well prepared and you may react in a wrong way. So, of course, if you need, you can travel to semi-safe zones. You see that even Orlando Bloom visited President Zelensky today. But in general, it is better to wait until we win and support us so that we win faster and you can come faster and enjoy Ukraine and the process of its rebuilding. Please forgive my talking for so long. Thank you so much for being my patrons, buying me coffee and supporting our projects. I'm really grateful for that, and that is super important for me. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe, and Slava Ukraini!